prospect of military action against Syria has thrust the role of NATO under the spotlight. What involvement, if any, would it have in eventual strikes against the Syrian leadership? As the debate among the international community intensifies, we spoke to NATO Secretary-General Anders Fogh Rasmussen.
Mr. Secretary-General, you kindly agreed to talk to Euronews at the moment when the world is deciding what to do about a chemical attack near Damascus. What does NATO do or is planning to do about Syria?
First of all, let me stress that I don't foresee any further role for NATO. NATO already plays its part as a forum for consultations among allies, and we have deployed Patriot missiles to ensure effective defense and protection of the Turkish population and Turkish territory. I don't foresee a further role, but having said that, we are gravely concerned about the situation in Syria, and it's my firm belief that the chemical attacks in Syria can't go unanswered. It is necessary that the international community sends a firm message to dictators all over the world that you can't use chemical weapons without any reaction.
By doing what? How to send this signal?
Well, that's for individual nations to figure out, and as you know, there are considerations right now, but I think it's of utmost importance that the international community sends a very clear message. It is a responsibility for the international community to uphold and enforce the international ban against the use of chemical weapons.
How convinced are you that the Syrian government committed this atrocity?
I'm convinced that the Syrian government is responsible. A variety of sources point to the Syrian regime as responsible, and I don't believe the Syrian opposition has the capacity to conduct such an attack of that scale and scope. It's irrational to think that the opposition would attack their own people in areas they already control with chemical weapons. So no doubt, to my mind, the Syrian regime is responsible.
Why do you take the alleged chemical attack much more seriously than killing of civilians by bullets?
Of course, the killings we have seen in the Syrian conflict are outrageous. I mean, maybe more than 100,000 people killed. It's horrendous. But obviously,